Hi, thanks for coming today. I'm Christophe from Continental Drift, and I run the Global Local project. So we're here today. This is a day dedicated to helping the career and the development of artists and musicians. And it's a part of the Global Local project that we do every year, and it's also a part of the London Remix Festival. We start with this day of panels and discussions on developing the career as an artist and what are the key organizations that you need to be aware of and that you probably will have to deal with if you're serious about your music career. So today we have a panel with various people from various organizations. We've got Alex from the Musicians Union here. We have
Hello.
Gareth Varty from PRS for Music. We have Lucy Bampton from the Arts Council England. And we have Julian Wolf from Pledge Music. So the first three people on the panel, I've had them in the previous years on this panel. And Julian is a new addition to the panel today, which is an interesting one because the direct-to-fan funding or crowdfunding is quite a big thing nowadays, and there's a lot of artists that use that avenue to fund their projects. And so it's great to have someone today to talk about it. So yeah, I think I'm just going to let Alex start the talk on the Musicians Union and what it's about and what it can do for you.
My name's Alex Mann. I'm the London Regional Officer for the Musicians Union. It's a fairly grand title, I guess. How many people here have already heard of the MU? And also, if you feel comfortable to self-identify, is anyone here already a member? Fantastic. Okay, so for the benefit of those of you who may not be too aware of what we do, or if you want to know a bit more, basically, we're a trade union that is dedicated to sort of working with musicians of all types, all backgrounds and genres. We work with recording artists, performers, music teachers, beat makers, buskers, session players, orchestral players, theatre musicians, as well as people who are literally kind of just starting out, working out of their bedroom, putting songs together, etc. And it's really across the board, all styles, all genres. The whole idea is because it's a trade union, it's open. There's no level of ability or no level of skill that's required. Anyone who wants to become a member of a trade union anyway is entitled to do so in the UK, and the MU is no different. So we have around 30,000 members across the country. London is the biggest region. We have about, just over, I think about, at the moment, the count is 10,200, which with a team of 6 of us keeps us incredibly, incredibly busy. The regional office generally, across the UK, the regional offices deal with any kind of queries or questions that we get. So normally if you're a member and you've got a problem or you've got an issue, you'll come to the regional office first, and either it's something that we will help with or we'll put you onto another department to kind of deal with the sort of problem that you might be having. So who's the MU for and what do people get out of it? As I say, we're kind of there for anyone and everybody who wants to be a member, really. But a lot of it is about problem solving. We help people to understand how the music industry works. That's obviously very important. We don't do that in isolation. We do provide our own advice, but we kind of liaise and work very closely with organizations like PRS, PPL, the Featured Artists Coalition, Music Publishers Association, and the Music Managers Forum, and other organizations that are also there to kind of help and support performers, music writers, etc. So we kind of take information and guidance from them, as well as the kind of info that we put out. And we work with we have a number of our own solicitors. All of the staff and officials all have a really established background in the music industry, so there's always someone that can answer anyone's question or deal with anyone's problem. And obviously they're going to be varied depending on where people come from. So if you're at the stage where you're just about to form a band, or if you are going into the studio for the first time, or if you're looking at getting your first gigs, or even if you've been an established artist and you've been around for a while and you might suddenly find that certain elements of your back catalogue are appearing on Amazon and they're appearing on YouTube or some other kind of social media, and you didn't put them up there, you think someone might be making money out of you, that kind of thing. Those are the kind of problems that we might deal with or people might bring to us on a regular basis. Or if it's an artist who is having their first contact with a record label or a publisher or an artist manager, an agent, etc., we're there to kind of help guide them through that process. And also, deal with the, I don't want to say aftermath, but deal with the kind of the consequences and results of that. So if someone's kind of come to the end of a deal and they're looking to sort of start something new and have a sea change in their career, or even if they want help with a deal that has not gone terribly well, the relationship might have gone sour, that kind of thing. We also give lots of advice on things like copyright as well, in terms of the recordings people make, the songs that they write, how they can kind of exploit those, and what that all means in terms of how that music is actually used how they can use it themselves, how third parties make use of it, record labels and publishers, etc. But also other elements such as neighboring rights in terms of performance and things like that. A lot of members find that their performances get filmed either with or without their consent. So we have a recording and broadcasting department that kind of helps deal with that. So even if that's someone doing a recital in a church hall or something, and all of a sudden that appears on YouTube and they feel that their particular recital wasn't their favorite, who do they talk to get that sort of taken down? How do they deal with that? If their material gets used in a way that they're not happy with and they've got a problem with, they kind of can come to us and get sort of advice on that. We run lots of seminars and workshops as well, and they're on all kinds of music industry topics. We're doing one this year on promotion and marketing, or we run advice workshops on tax and stuff like that. Setting up partnerships, which is a really big and important one for anyone who's in a band, anyone who's working on a project with another musician or another composer, etc. The idea of a partnership is you're working with someone else with a view to make a profit. So if you are in a band or if you're in a co-writing partnership, then you're in a partnership. And then there are certain elements that a lot of people don't really know about, don't really think about, that can really trip you up later on in your career if things start to go wrong. We also help people out with things like unpaid fees. So if someone does a gig and they don't get the money for it, they can come to us and we will kind of talk them through that problem, tell them what they need to do, or we will get involved ourselves and get our hands dirty. And that might even might start with writing letters, or it might end up going the whole way and having a big bust up in court on behalf of our members. I don't know if any of you followed the Warhorse issue that came up last year, where the band were effectively made redundant and were told that they were going to be replaced by a tape. So they basically said, that's it, you don't have a job here anymore. Off you go. We're going to replace you with a tape of a recording that you didn't perform on, so they didn't even get to get their own performances used in that recorded performance that was put into the show. So we ended up going to the High Court over that. It was a long and painful battle, and the result for the musicians was absolutely the best that we could hope for. So we get involved in really, really big cases like that, or it might be something small. Someone might have done a music lesson and they're not been paid for, they might be owed 30, 50 quid or something like that, and we can kind of help and get involved with those things too. So it's really, really across the board. One of the main services we offer is contract advice. Obviously, the music industry is rooted in contracts and contract law, so members are offered agreements all the time for all kinds of things. As I say, whether it is a licensing deal for a tune they've written, or whether it's artist management agreement, something like that. Someone will offer you a document with some complicated words on it, and it's up to us to kind of help our members kind of understand and interpret that and make an informed decision as to whether it's a deal that they feel comfortable signing, and making an important decision about their career as a musician, as an artist, as a composer going forward. So we're there to make sure they've got that in place. Other things that are useful to members, we offer public liability, equipment insurance, so we can insure your gear for up to sort of $2,000 worth of equipment insurance for free. And that's incredibly helpful because it's worldwide. So if you drop your favorite Strat in Guatemala on tour, then there's a good chance that you can make a claim against that. And the idea is it's a kind of, holistic sort of service. We provide all kinds of things for all kinds of people. If someone is unable to work because they've had an accident or an injury or an illness, then they can come to us and we can help them out with a bit of cash to sort of tide them over in the meantime. We offer kind of things like hearing workshops and a discount on attenuated ear protectors. All these things are all really useful. So as I say, it's not just about the musician, it's about the human being as well, and looking after people throughout their entire careers. And anyone who's been in music knows that it's something that never ever leaves you, and a lot of people remain musicians at some level or another well into their 80s and 90s, and some people argue that it's something that keeps them alive. So we're there to kind of maintain and support them throughout their entire career. We also get involved in a lot of campaign activity. I've left some flyers and information at the back, but one of the key campaigns we're working on at the moment is a thing called Work Not Play. We identified through the Olympics and through a number of other key events that a lot of musicians, and we know it's been going on for years, but a lot of musicians have been offered work for no pay, particularly where it's an engagement or a piece of work that they should really be paid a fee for. So we took a strong stand on that, set up a website called worknotplay.com, co.uk actually, and the main part of that was having a name and shame section. So if an individual or an organization offers our members work and says, I want you to come and do this, it's going to be a great opportunity for your career. It's going to get you great exposure. Those are always the words that I kind of tell people to look out for. If you get offered something and they talk about opportunity and exposure and you end up playing a corporate gig at the top of the shard in front of 400 wealthy bankers, how is that an opportunity or an exposure for you? Someone's getting paid for that and it isn't you. So we're there to kind of help protect those people in that situation. And if necessary, we'll go and negotiate on their behalf and try and get a fee put in if we can. And if not, we'll just do what we can to embarrass them and put that organization or individual up on the Work Not Play website for everyone to see. We have what's called an Ask Us First list in our magazine, which you'll find copies of at the back, and that also advises members on organizations and individuals that we think are offering members terms and conditions that are not entirely fair or appropriate. And as you can imagine, some of those are pretty shocking. So in terms of numbers then, in case you're interested in how much it might cost an individual to join the MU, it's generally about, you're looking at about 16, 17 quid a month. But it buys you all of the services and kind of benefits that I'm talking about for free, basically. So it is a bit of an investment in your career. It's a bit of an investment in yourself. But when you went out and bought your first guitar or your first drum kit, that was also an investment in yourself as well. So we kind of look at that as being something that you would do if you're serious about taking your career forward as a musician. The same with joining PRS, the same with joining PPL, or any other kind of suitable representative organization to protect you and protect your interests for now and in the future.
So now, Gareth, if you could tell us a bit more about PRS for Music. And just before you start as well, I wanted to say we were meant to have someone from PRS Foundation, which is slightly different, which is a charity that is funded by PRS and that offer grants opportunity, the same as the Arts Council does, although they've got like a slightly more specific program for musicians. And so they couldn't make it because they had a big deadline for their grants application and assessment. Today they're assessing a lot of application for this term. So we've got some literature from them, which are flyers at the back, which you can take later on, and you can have a look, because it's also a great opportunity to get fundings for your project as musicians or artists and producers.
My name's Gareth. I'm a publisher account manager at PRS for Music. In effect, we are a fairly large rights organisation who administer and license the use of any public performance of music. That can be your more traditional sort of radio broadcast or TV broadcast, or I guess the more commonplace kind of streaming or simulcast online of music. We also license the use of music in shops and hairdressers and restaurants, any time that music is played to the public, basically. And we also cover live performances in pubs, clubs, venues like this, bigger venues like O2 Arena, Brixton Academy, and all festivals around the UK. A lot of the work that we do kind of cross-pollinates with our sister company, the MCPS, and what they do is administer and license the copying of music into a physical format. That can be anywhere from cassettes, vinyl, to CD, digital downloads, and even streaming incorporates a small mechanical royalty in it, mainly to do with a lot of kind of high-level funding of streaming coming from labels and things like that. It's quite a convoluted reason as to why there is a mechanical royalty there, but nonetheless, you can receive mechanical royalties for that. As a bit of history for sort of where we've come from and how we got to where we are today, the PRS was formed in 1914, so we actually had our centenary year last year. We were formed in response to the kind of dissemination of sheet music and manuscript, and a lot of sort of classical composers and publishers felt that they weren't being remunerated properly for the copyrights they had written or were representing. So we kind of came together and looked at a way of licensing people to use that and allowing musicians to have what was effectively a salary for other people using their copyright. The MCPS was formed shortly after that, again, mainly in response to sort of gramophones and the dissemination of physical sort of take-home music that people could go and use however they wanted. Since then, we've come a really, really long way. We've got a membership pool that we now combine with the MCPS of about 110,000 members. 20,000 of those are publishers, a good 90,000 of which are songwriters. Throughout sort of all the work they do, we represent nearly 10 million songs within our repertoire, which is made available to somewhere in the region of 350,000 licensees. And in effect, what we're doing is licensing the music users, giving them the right to use our repertoire however they wish within the remit of that license. We then collect that license fee and reporting from the users to say how much they are using, when, where, and for how long. And then we disseminate that to our members as royalties. So the royalty you receive is very much based on the exposure that your music is getting within the UK and sometimes overseas as well. And we try to be as fair as we can to ensure that you're getting a representative royalty rate for the amount of music that you are having being used or the amount of music that you're writing. So we're literally processing somewhere in the region of 100 billion uses of music every year. And that translates to about £650 million worth of royalties distributed last year, which is quite a huge amount of work. And not all of it goes to Paul McCartney, as many people seem to think it does. As I said, it's a very fair way of kind of using members' input and kind of their experiences in the industry to determine how we should pay these royalties to everybody. We very much take the lead from our members on where we should be licensing music, where we should be looking to extract revenue from. We have huge departments who deal with licensing everyone in the country. We have departments who deal with all of our members. We have on-the-ground kind of sort of marketing teams who will go out and assess sort of local venues and sort of smaller kind of TV or radio stations to see how much they are using, whether they should be paying more for what they do. And really everything we do is to ensure that musicians can live off the back of what they're doing. My role is kind of more targeted towards looking after our kind of more industrious publisher members, be them majors, indie majors, or kind of unique indie publishing companies, to be their first port of call, to ensure they have a voice within our company, they have someone that will listen to their issues and will actually look to change the way PRS works in order to benefit everyone who is a member. I mean, these publishers represent hundreds, sometimes thousands of songwriters. And again, it's a very kind of mutual relationship where it's for the benefit of everyone involved. We're ensuring that, you know, the copyright can endure and that people are being listened to. So if you join us, you will form probably part of the biggest songwriting community in Europe, I think. Certainly the biggest in the UK. We work very closely, as Alex said, with the Musicians' Union. We have a foundation for funding our members with all manner of services and kind of helplines that you can come and talk to us about if you feel there's anything that we are not covering within the UK market. And we're always there to kind of listen to our members' input and act upon it. Yeah, really, it's down to the musicians. Without you guys doing what you do, there wouldn't be much of a reason for the PRS to exist. So yeah, that's effectively what we do.
Now we're going to move on to Lucy from the Arts Council England, which is a great organization which is also funding the global local projects as well. So we work closely with them as well. And so I'm going to let you explain a bit more.
Cool. Hello. My name's Lucy Bampton. I work for Arts Council. I'm based in the London music team, although my role is actually kind of a broader role encompassing all areas of engagement and audiences for all of our art forms which we fund and help to develop, although the majority of my work kind of centres around music. So just a bit of a background, I'm sure you're probably aware of the Arts Council, but we're the national development agency with a remit to champion, invest and develop the arts. In music, we have a really broad portfolio encompassing everything from opera houses to music education organisations to promoters, and a really broad portfolio. The thing I want to talk about today that I think is really relevant for musicians is our Grants for the Arts funding. Grants for the Arts is an open application system which we are open to organisations and individuals. You can apply from anything from £1,000 up to £100,000. We have two strands, up to £15,000 and over £15,000, which are really there to fund projects, exciting, engaging, new projects in the arts, which I've lost my train of thought. So the projects, they need a start date, they need an end date. We look at the quality of the artistic output, and we also look at public engagement, and those are our kind of two main qualifiers for good projects, and that sits really comfortably under our strategic framework, which is achieving great art for everyone. So my role is heavily around the engagement side of things, which we want to increase opportunities for more people to engage in the arts, for people who don't normally engage in the arts, and to inspire the arts sector to kind of be more resilient and more innovative. I don't want to talk too much about the process of Grants for the Arts, but I think it's important to say that it's there. It's a responsive process, so we're often kind of challenged, I think, as the Arts Council for kind of being a long-standing institution. I like my write-up, that I'm the kind of the modern face of a long-standing institution. And I think there's real kind of change developing. I think our team, particularly in London, there's such a breadth of musical activity taking place that the more we kind of see on-the-ground applications coming in that do develop the arts and develop opportunities for people to engage in them, the more exciting we can support the music sector to be. One thing I will say about Grants for the Arts is that it's a rolling process, so you can apply at any time in the year. The main requirement for it is a 10% match funding, which can come from some of the representatives here, and also encompasses things like earned income, support in kind, and things like that.
Now we have Julian Wall from Pledge Music joining us today, who's going to tell you a bit more about what Pledge Music is and what opportunities are there for you.
Thank you, Christoph. Everyone can hear, hopefully. How many people have heard of Pledge Music in the room? Well, that's a pretty good start. So there's some of you that haven't. And let me try and explain. I'll try not to sort of bore you to death with slides and stuff, but I thought it would be useful to have a few to explain what Pledge Music is about and what we do. So as you can see, Pledge Music, direct-to-fan music company, and that's the kind of key line I'd like to both start and leave you with. Pledge Music came out of the kind of crowdfunding world, which still has a vibrant existence in the form of Kickstarter or with regard to Music Indiegogo and maybe Sell a Band and things like that. But we're 5 years old now, which is kind of several lifetimes in this industry, as I'm sure you'd agree. And we're really all about direct to fans. So let me try and take you through what we do and how we can kind of be maybe part of your world, hopefully. So the first thing I'd like to say, and this is really important for, I'm sure, everybody sitting here, you retain your rights. We're not a label or a label services division as such. You as musicians, as creators, as rights owners, retain 100% of your rights through the Pledge Music route to market. And that's very important, I think. I'll tell you how we operate and pay our bills in a minute, but I'd like you, as well as that direct-to-fan mantra, also bear in mind that when you come to Pledge Music and you work with us, you're in control, and you remain in control throughout the process and after you leave. As I say, you retain your rights. You retain your data. Data is a key part of any artist's world, I'm sure, and all the data we get through our work with you, or that comes in through any projects we're doing together, you get it all. There's no kind of hold back on that, or it's unreservedly yours. And transparency and that kind of ethic is very important in the pledge music world. Pledge music was started by a musician, a guy called Benji Rogers, who'd had a sort of bit of an up and down career in the music business, and he tells this story that it all came to him in a dream one night, how pledge music started. I don't believe it for a minute, but that's his story, and he tells it well. But the point I'm trying to make is it was started, from that part of the music world, a musician. So we we retain the essence of that spirit right the way through. Chart eligibility, I'll come on to a bit later. Hopefully that's what everybody aspires to. The charts mean something or nothing, whatever your point of view is to some extent in this day and age. But there's no doubt about it, it's a barometer of success for many artists, and the fact that we can help you in that world of chart eligibility is an important aspect of what we do. Growing your own fan base. Put quite simply, you come to Pledge Music with hopefully some fans and some followers, whether it's kind of, manifested through Twitter, Facebook, or whatever the social media metrics are. But you come to us with some basis, and I guarantee you will leave with a bigger amount of fans than you came to Pledge Music with. Once you've worked with us, gone through a project, if everybody's done their job correctly, you will have a bigger fan base than you had before you came to us. It all sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? And trust me, it is. But let's carry on with how you can work with Pledge Music. 3 ways, really. Direct-to-fan targeted campaigns, direct-to-fan pre-order campaigns, and data collection, just to add a bit of flesh onto those bones. Direct-to-fan targeted campaigns is, Pledge Music is, as I say, it's all about direct-to-fan. And you come to us, you want to make a record, make a CD, make a book. We're all kind of music-based, but whatever kind of format it takes within that, we're open to anything in that respect. So what you're doing is you're trying to take you're taking the fan base you have and stuff we will add to, and make a campaign that is relevant and kind of attractive to the fans you already have. This comes out in exclusive offers and opportunities and experiences, again, which I'll come to a bit later. But what I'm trying to say here is that, in the first aspect of how we can work together, it's about building a campaign or a plan or a plot, whatever you want to call it, that is targeted at your fans and targeted at bringing more fans to it. Now, for some acts that come to Pledge Music, they've already got a core base of fans, and they want some resource to make that new record or whatever it is. And what they want to do is to be selling that record before it's actually made, almost, if you see what I mean. When you sign to a record label, they put you in a studio, you go away and you record an album, and that's all done, undercover, so to speak. And then you deliver the album to the record company, and they've got 6, 8 weeks, whatever it is, to get it onto iTunes, Amazon, and all the rest of it. But what we're doing, we can start that process much earlier on. From the moment you step into a recording studio or you announce the project, we can start taking orders from your fans for whatever it is you're doing a campaign for. Data collection, as I kind of alluded to already, is very much kind of runs through everything we do. And so all those email addresses that come in of people who want to get involved with what you're doing, or are fans already that you might have email addresses for, you might not. But whatever it is, we're collecting data that, as I said, is yours to have at the end of the campaign. So some of the statistics that I'd like to throw at you, to give you some idea of why we're doing what we're doing. Basically, 90% of Pledge Music campaigns achieve their target. You come to us saying, I need X to make a new record, £5,000, £10,000, whatever it is. And by the end of, 90% of the projects we're involved in will have achieved that, which is a pretty high strike rate. I mean, and as 5 years down the line, we're pretty good at knowing what the right amount of money is that you can possibly raise given your position in the marketplace at this moment in time. In fact, even better, you can typically generate in excess of what you originally set out to achieve, and that figure is a kind of rather highly calculated 134%. But whatever it is, it's over, what you originally wanted, and that's good news all round. The average spend we've found of the campaigns we're doing per pledger, so to speak, is about £36. 30% of revenue is from transactions greater than £165. I mean, I don't know how applicable this is, but, when we're doing a campaign with the group Ash at the moment, they're going to sell some of their instruments as part of that campaign, and that's several hundreds of pounds that somebody will buy a signed guitar from Tim Wheeler from, or whatever. So there's quite high value products you can put into the campaign that will help you get towards your target. And then, this is a very important thing, the last one here. Frontline acts are now seeing 40% of their campaign business from the existing Pledge Music community. In the 5 years of our existence, we've obviously collected every single piece of data that we can, and all those people who've pledged on projects throughout Pledge Music. We have a Pledge Music community, let's say, of between about 800,000 people now who've, since day one, have bought something through the Pledge system or whatever. So what I'm saying to you is, 40% of your campaign typically will come from those 800,000 people that we have sitting on our database who regularly peruse our website and are looking for new music to get involved in, to get into and to support. So again, that comes back to kind of the mantra I was saying about you'll definitely leave Pledge Music with more fans than you arrived with if everybody's doing their job correctly. So, speaking of that, the community we have, what is it? So, as I say, 850,000 registered users is where we're at the moment, and you can see the growth in that. It really is quite astonishing, from 530,000 in 2013. By the end of 2014, that had rocketed up to 850,000. And this is, not surprisingly, added to at quite an enormous rate per week. We launched about 1,000 campaigns in 2014, which is a hell of a lot, really. Most record labels aren't releasing that number of projects over the course of a 12-month period, whether they're Universal, Sony, Warners, or whatever. So there's a lot of activity going on the Pledge Music website of artists launching their campaigns. And as I say, 1,000 campaigns, I mean, pretty much about 80 a month, I think that is. And I think I've already said, the percentage that comes of any one campaign's business that'll come from people who are already in our Pledge Music world, aren't in your world necessarily when you come to us, but get involved because they like to experience and find new music. This is, there's so much information on that slide, but it's just to give you a kind of feel of where those 850,000 people are in the kind of age, gender, and geographical location. It's obviously it's worldwide what we do, but as you can see, over 60% is the US and UK. I mean, they're the biggest the US is the biggest music market in the world, so it should be at the top of the tree in terms of geography. But I'm just trying to illustrate that there's a spread of there's people across the world who are involved, looking at the Pledge Music website and going onto it. Gender and age. I mean, the age thing's not too surprising. In the fact that 18 to 34 is by far the bulk of people who are going onto the Pledge Music site and buying experiences and new music, etc. But that hopefully gives you a little bit of a snapshot of kind of who it is, who's out there that we can possibly access on your behalf. To do that, we're a very kind of energetic newsletter organisation. I mean, most of my life is spent writing newsletters, to be brutally honest with you. That's to inform everybody what we've got, and that's you're wanting to highlight your campaign, and these are the avenues through which we can do it. You know, the industry newsletter, it's very important that we work with the music industry as a whole, because obviously the bulk of the rights owners, so to speak, are incorporated within that. Fan-facing, you know, that's just the people who, you know, the consumer world that we inhabit. We want to be making sure that they're fully aware of what we've got, what we're doing. And artist-facing, this is for you as artists to hear about other artist campaigns we're doing on Pledge Music, that possibly you might find something in there that you want to adapt, adopt, or whatever. You know, you can always learn, and learning from other artists is a great place to be starting, I think. So what are these campaigns that we do? I mean, just to quickly whip through it and give you a flavour. Oops, sorry, I've gone too far there. It's things like offering your fans, you know, merchandise, incentives. You know, it's exclusive T-shirts that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise. Signed CDs is a no-brainer. Handwritten lyric sheets. You know, fans want this kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with offering this, because if you're a fan of an act, you know, this is all part of the activity you do, and things like signed handwritten lyric sheets, screen prints, you know, postcards, posters of vinyl that are only accessible by fans is very much, you know, the kind of core ingredients of successful campaigns. Experiences. Some artists, you know, when they're putting together their new music or creating music, they want to do it alone. It's not for every artist, Pledge Music, let me say that. But if you want to kind of, you know, be more engaged with your fans and keep that engagement going on, then some of these experiences that, again, as a fan, these are wonderful things to have, you know, or to be able to access. And you know, it's coming down to the studio or Skype conversations or you know, guitar tutorials or stuff like that. The sky's the limit in what you can offer your fans in that respect, and fans want this. That's what I really need to emphasise this. So, you know, sometimes you think, well, I don't want to be offering that or whatever. That looks a bit, you know, wrong. Trust me, most of the things aren't. You know, it really is the case that. Imagine an act you're a fan of. You know, if you could get close to them and get some sort of stuff like that going on, that's a big deal. And you know, we're there to facilitate that and sort of moderate it so everybody walks away from the experience in a positive and good frame of mind. You know, none of this works unless it's kind of done in the correct way, if you see what I mean. You really want fans to be, you know, appreciative, positive and enthusiastic after that experience, let alone before it. So there's that kind of thing goes on. Intro videos, I mean, you know, you've got an opportunity through the Pledge site when you do a campaign with us to do your own video and talk about yourself, to, you know, your words, your music, your experiences, what you want to do. We're there to help and facilitate, but the creative control is very much down to you. You know, there's not an army of marketing people saying to you, "Oh, don't do this, don't do that," or whatever. It really, you know your fans best. If you don't know them, then something's wrong, I would say. But you know, on the basis that you know best how you want to present yourself and whatever, then these kind of exercises are really worthwhile doing, and fans, you know, want to see and hear it. Pledges only artist updates. Once a fan signs up for the campaign, then they get kind of exclusive, might be kind of terming it too much, because obviously you might be putting these things out on your own media, social media networks anyway. But you know, you can kind of send out updates to your fans of what you're doing in the studio, how it's going, you know, how it's not going or something. But whatever, it's again, you know, connecting with the fans and keeping them, you know, part of, I don't want to lapse into sort of X Factor language here, but it is a journey, so to speak, and that's what kind of you can take the fans on. And so you know, that kind of update thing is kind of personal blogs, I suppose, to the people, you know, who are really interested in what you're doing. this is, a few snapshots from the website. I mean, Ginger Wildheart is a particularly successful project we've worked on. He does a lot of stuff, and these are the kind of things he puts on the Pledge Music website for his fans, exclusive songs and various films that he makes. This I'm going to skip through a bit, because working with labels and chart reporting is all perhaps, it all gets a bit, torrid in a kind of business sense. But the basic point I'm trying to make is, as I said before, what this shows is you can be working with us all through this process that normally, you go off and make the record or do whatever you do, and you don't really start the commercial activity, so to speak, till you're kind of pretty near the street day. But through the Pledge Music process, and the campaign can be as long or as short as you like. I would sort of say a typical campaign is about 3 months long, but it can be 6 months. It doesn't have to be 3 months. It's the kind of way you can, both extend what's going on and, frankly, get more money involved coming into you through it. So stock is a bit sort of torrid, but basically it's, there's a job of work to be done with all of this. If you're telling your fans you're going to send them merchandise or whatever, you've got to get all that together. And we can help in all that, as we can help the fulfillment, because the worst thing you can do is say to your fans, I'm going to send this to you and do that, and it doesn't happen. In a heartbeat, everybody knows that it hasn't happened, and not only would Pledge Music be suffering, but you would be as well as an artist. So we're very conscious. Sometimes things don't go to plan. I said 90% of the campaigns are successful. That 10% that aren't, a band go into a studio and suddenly it's not working, they don't like each other, and so many things can happen and it just turns to shit, and that's the end of it. But frankly, we can all deal with that. The money gets returned and etc. So it's not a problem, but obviously it's something we need to be cognizant of and we need to protect ourselves with. Chart reporting is something that we have agreements with chart compilers that all the pre-orders that are made through a Pledge Music campaign can count to a chart position. For those of you who've ever kind of entered that torrid world of trying to get chart positions, you'll kind of get in a heartbeat what I'm talking about. But even if you haven't, what I'm trying to say to you is, Pledge Music can take you through that kind of sometimes fairly complicated stage of things as well. Erasure, that's a typical campaign page of an act we did. Erasure's one of the bigger acts, obviously, but they'd been away several years, and last year they came back with a new album, but they needed to re-engage with their fans and generally excite things up again, and Pledge Music was the mechanism they did it. The record came out on Mute Records, who they're signed to, but before it came out, there was all sorts of activity that enabled Erasure fans to get excited about Erasure again. That's kind of at the top of the tree, but the principles, the basic core principles, I think, are there in terms of connecting direct to fan. A few chart successes we've had with bigger acts. I don't want to give the impression we work, of the 1,000 projects we work every year, the vast majority are artists that are DIY artists, so to speak. They're doing their own thing. They don't want to be signed to a label, or they're not yet in the world where that's part of what's on offer. But, even the bigger acts can, everybody now, if they've got any sense, knows that they need to keep their fan base close to them and grow it as much as possible, and even, from the top to the bottom. So these are some of the successes we've had. Some of the bands we've worked with. I would point to Fat White Family, which kind of nobody had heard of it a couple of years ago or whatever, obviously they've travelled a great deal, since then, although, every day it could be the end of Fat White Family, from what I can gather. They're a fairly lively bunch of guys. But they came to Pledge Music with a bit of a fan base. They wanted to go and do some gigs in America. And who was going to pay them to do that? How are they going to get the money to do that? What they did, they made a campaign for their fans that enabled them to raise the revenue to do it. And frankly, it worked brilliantly for them, and they went on to get signed to PS. I think they have their own label, but they've signed to a company called Play It Again, Sam PS, as I say, who are a major distributor. Right? So by working their fan base through the Pledge Music site, Fat White Family took themselves from there to there, and whoever's sitting here, if they're making music, they want as many people as possible to hear it. There's no sense in doing it all if it's all going to remain, on your, only in your world. There's a need. Everybody I hope has a want and a need to kind of expand their universe, and this is a great way to do it. Where, as I say, you retain your rights, and our charge, how we make money is we take a commission. It's a straight 15% commission on any money that comes in for whatever you're offering. So, it's quite transparent. As I said, having been started by a musician, our heart very much lies in that kind of area, and that's what the cost is, 15% of what is earned on the campaign. I mean, some of the labels we've worked with, and I put this slide in, not because I wanted to say, we work with X, Y, and Z. What has happened is these artists that went on to be signed to these labels started their life at Pledge Music, so to speak, and because of the kind of activity and interest that they were generating through their campaigns, along comes label world to see if they can make an arrangement together. And labels aren't for everyone, but there are some pretty good labels out there, and they know what they're doing, and particularly if you want to internationalize your career, I would suggest you need to address signing to a label at some point, but maybe not at the beginning or in the early stages. But these are some of the labels that have gone. Some of our acts have gone on to sign with. And another aspect we work with, which I don't think we make much noise about, but I'm going to here today. Everybody who does a campaign with Pledge Music has the option to make a contribution to a charity through the campaign. I mean, how this kind of works out in practice is once you've raised the money you want, 100% of the target, so to speak, you can then make a decision to donate everything raised above that, a small percentage to a charity of your choice. And since day one, Pledge Music has done this. And, there's about 500-600 charities that have been donated. It's entirely a charity of your choice. But I think, as in the world we live in, this is a good thing to be doing. And I think it sort of, is the right thing to be doing as well, to some extent. But if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. There's no compulsion. As I said all the way through this presentation, you're in control of how you want your campaign to look. So it's up to you, but that's one of the aspects we do that I think is worthy of mention, let's say, at this point. So that's a real kind of, canter through Pledge Music. Hopefully some of what I've said makes sense. I mean, I'm more than happy, afterwards, if there's a Q&A now, obviously the questions I can answer, but even if, afterwards there's a couple of things that you're not quite clear about or you want a bit of further explanation, I'd be happy to hang around and talk to you, and we're based in Covent Garden, so it's not difficult to set up for you to come into the office and talk to some of the campaign managers who you'd actually be working with if you wanted to move forward on things. But Pledge Music is there to help artists bring their work into the wider world, and I think we do a pretty good job of it. And as I say, it's one of the few things you can kind of engage with where you retain 100% of your rights. So you can go on from working with Pledge Music to do whatever you want to do. You can do whatever you want to do with Pledge Music, that's for sure as well. So all I'd say is thank you very much for listening to me. Hopefully, as I say, some of it's made sense, and please feel free to come see me afterwards if there's any questions. That's my email address in case you have to go off. I think, can you read it? I can hardly read it, but it's julian.wall@pledgemusic.com.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating what can be accomplished nowadays just with a computer and the internet, and how you can reach out to a fan base, and how can artists just get big projects and albums and tour funded just straight by reaching out to people and to their fan base directly through the web. So I think that's great. We've got a little bit of time for questions and answer if anyone has any questions, and then we'll do some one-to-ones as well with the speakers on the panel, and then there will be another panel as well. So has anyone any questions? Have we got a mic for the questions as well? Here it is. Don't be shy. Here we go.
Just a question about PRS and MCPS. It's still actually, I think, a bit confusing. I've been on the website, and is there any kind of merging them, or any view to kind of merge them even more? I've even called up and asked a few questions, and then kind of get redirected. Oh, you need to talk to MCPS for that bit, and is there anything?
So there was an alliance formed in '97 between both companies, which has kind of fallen apart a little bit, mainly in part to just the huge decline in physical market. The issue of kind of bringing both companies together is that they're two completely different streams of rights, and they're administered in completely different ways. So the PRS is very much about setting up big blanket licenses with big users of music in a public sphere, whereas the MCPS is very much about sending individual invoices to record labels or digital service providers or what have you. And the manner in which we work is vastly different. It's not easy for people who are new to the whole process. I think the only advice I would give is join the PRS first. That will protect your right to have your music used anywhere. If you're getting to a stage at which you're releasing physical albums or a label has picked you up, then start to consider joining the MCPS. It's a £50 membership for both. It's a lifetime membership, so if you want to hedge your bets and join both, then by all means do. Just the MCPS won't do a lot of work for you until you have sort of big releases going out around the world. That's when they really come into their own and can prove that that they're able to recoup all these kind of mechanical royalties back to you. PRS is kind of in my eyes, a much simpler process, mainly due to the relationship we have with our licensees, that they're very willing to kind of renew licenses every year and continue to pay for public performance.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Gareth. I think we've got someone at the back there.
I was just wondering about PRS again. If you've not joined and you join later, do you get money back in retrospect?
No, we can only collect for the duration of your membership. And again, I would say join as soon as you can. £50 one-off. If you're published, or if you get signed to a publisher, your publisher can claim within their membership. So some publishers have been members for coming up on 100 years now. So they can kind of retrospectively claim. We hold royalties for 3 years. So if you have got a publisher who can claim on your behalf, they can go 3 years back from when you are claiming, basically.
Okay. So if we've had stuff on compilations. So with that,
CD compilations.
Yeah.
That will be the MCPS that deal with that. And again, unless you join, you can't claim, and you can only claim for the period of your membership. So I would say that most likely you wouldn't be able to claim, unless, of course, you're published and your publisher can do it on your behalf.
Okay, thanks.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, good one at the front.
Hi, I have a question for Julian. Thanks for coming down. Based on your 850,000 fan base, subscriber base, have you seen a trend as to the types of music that people are supporting? Do you find that particular types of music are being more supported? And in the 5 years that you've been in existence, do you find a shift in the trend?
I've only been at Pledge Music a year, so I'll have to busk it a bit on this. But the truth is that every genre is covered on through Pledge Music. I mean, we've just run a campaign for a 70s folk group that have got back together. But as is the case in the world out there, things like rock and that kind of genre are very strong in Pledge Music. We're doing quite a lot of pop. It'd be difficult to give you a kind of, a history of how it's gone, but I would say in the last 12 months, it's expanding into all sorts of other areas, jazz and and you know, that haven't kind of typically been associated with direct-to-fan kind of websites like ours. So what I would say in summary is we cover anything and everything. Rock is a big part of it, and pop is certainly a strong part of it as well. But what might be called niche genres, whether they're sort of folk, you know, or well, EDM is not a niche genre by any stretch of the imagination, but obviously that's kind of a big part of what we do as well now. And you know, the sort of, you know, the DJ as an artist is very much part of the Pledge Music's kind of schedule of campaigns as well. Certainly in America, we're getting a lot of that at the moment. But the more we kind of promote and publicise, if that's the right way of putting it, Pledge Music, you know, the more sort of musicians are coming to us, and they come from anywhere and everywhere. Classical music. I'll tell you what doesn't work on Pledge Music, to kind of take an opposite track on it. It's very difficult to get various artists type of projects off the ground, because if you think about it, it kind of makes sense in the direct-to-fan. I know this is a bit off-piste of what you were saying, but you know, if you're sort of thinking of it as a genre, so to speak, but those where there's no specific fan element, you know, various artists by definition is a collection of artists, and they're fans for each one of them, and you find that it kind of gets lost between the cracks a bit. It needs, you know, single artist, single band, whatever it is, or that, you know, there needs to be a one idea sort of thing going into pledge campaigns that galvanises you know, both our community and obviously the existing set of fans as well. But you know, we're open to anything, trust me. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Julian. Is this it? We've got one at the very, very back over there.
Yeah, just moving on from the last question. If you have got someone coming to you with a sort of more eccentric project, what's your process for kind of essentially tailoring a campaign based on the fact that you've got a market predominantly for rock and pop? How do you go out and find subscribers?
Well, obviously, you know, from here we would kind of meet up and discuss what kind of campaign would work for you, and whether it kind of does the job you want it to. We're not a marketing company as such in that respect, but through, as I said, the kind of, you know, the communications efforts we do and the size of the Pledge Music community, there's bound to be something there we can grab hold of. But to some extent, you know, the onus is on you through your social media and through your kind of work and efforts to galvanise the fan base that's with you already and try and grow it a bit in that respect. You know, we're providing the platform through which you can present what you're doing, but and the campaign manager at Pledge Music is tasked with making a campaign under your guidance and auspices of what you want to put out there. But you know, it's very much it's not DIY by any stretch of the imagination, but it has to be you that drive it and direct it, so to speak. And in terms of, you know, oddities, I don't know if that's the right way of putting it, you know, the odder the better, really, isn't it? That's the way I look at it. But, you know, if we can kind of highlight the campaign, you know, we want you to succeed. You know, your success is our success as well, and so, you know, we're there to kind of make the platform as kind of you know, to build the profile, make the platform as exciting as possible for both existing fans and the new fans you'll get through being part of the Pledge world. I think does that kind of go some way to? But yeah, if you've got an odd idea, let's hear it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm sort of,
or maybe not,
quite often. But I mean, quite often I'm observing that a lot of very interesting artists and new bands and stuff are supported predominantly by other artists, which is the problem when it comes to trying to crowdsource, which is where I can see the value of going to an agency is. So, yeah, I was just kind of asking about how you then go out and find beyond the people you already know. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes...
Well, launching 1,000 campaigns a year, you know, 60 to 80 a month, there's a constant flow of new subscribers, so to speak, coming in. As I think I put the slide says, you know, it's running around 8,000 a week. So we're adding to our community, you know, in a quite energetic way, and that you know, our communication with them, as I said to you, most of my world is about, you know, writing newsletters and putting them together and stuff like that. That's a cornerstone of what we do. You know, if we're not A, growing our community, and B, nurturing it to be interested in the work we're doing, then what are we doing, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Julian. So I think that we conclude the question and answer for this panel. Each speaker will be on one of those tables there. If you want to go and see them for a little chat about your project, or you know, if there's any other question that you would like to ask about what they do and the organizations they represent, you can do that. They'll be there for another hour or so. And then we're going to have a next panel coming up in a bit, which is about the remix, all about the remix, and it will be chaired by Christophe, who's a musical director at Continental Drift and also a DJ in his own right and one of the pioneers of electro swing in the UK. Yes, so thank you very much, guys, for that, and people here as well. And yeah, we're going to move on to the next panel in a second. Thank you.